maybe appointed officials such as our Commissioner of Public Health or the Commissioner of Public Safety will do, and whether they will answer this call to action by the New Haven Register. And frankly, I really haven't seen anything significant. I mean, I believe Congressman Elizabeth Esty
yes.
From the 1st District held a sort of town meeting, a
yes.
conference to sort of
and
have
you attended that,
I attended,
that was in Waterbury.
Right,
yes.
not as a participant, but just somebody sitting
yeah.
quietly in the audience.
Yes.
And so obviously I was very interested to hear what she had to say or to see what the process how the process would go forward. And fundamentally what I've seen and what I have heard in a number of these town hall meetings that are being held around the state today is that, yes, everybody is acknowledging what we all know or what we all can find out by going to the internet or reading old newspaper accounts, in that heroin deaths is up in Connecticut from something like 170 in 2012 to now about 250 something. So it's, I don't know what that is, 45% increase. We'll have to do the math. And obviously it's tragic. And most concern to me is these are very avoidable deaths. May they be accidental or otherwise. It's the most preventable homicide that we can think of. So I was thinking, why not do something different than just asking for more law enforcement to get involved and do more interdiction. I mean, I'm Mr. Interdiction. I'm the guy you sent to Colombia, for God's sakes, and I can tell you it's a waste of money. It's counterproductive, and it's not going to get you anywhere. I mean, I was yelling and screaming back in 2000. It's now 14 years later, and now we're seeing in towns and cities across Connecticut the same result, if not worse, obviously, because now the level of purity of the heroin is higher and the price is dropping, so it's even more readily available. So what I developed is this concept that I'm loosely calling the Connecticut Heroin Users Union, because a couple of things sort of lined up in the stars and the planets, in that this year, 2014, my wife has generously given me a 1-year sabbatical. So it's as if I were a Jesuit priest and I can leave my teaching responsibilities and go travel or go get a advanced degree or work in a mission somewhere overseas. So instead of running off and buying a red sports car and driving off to Vegas and having the time of my life, I decided that for the balance of this year, while I don't have this pressing family issue to obviously earn a salary and support our 2 children and my wife. My wife was nice enough to take care of that. I wanted to pursue this project I call the Connecticut Heroin Users Union. And briefly, what I plan to do the balance of this year is to drive around and travel around and walk around, visit every one of the 169 towns and cities across Connecticut, and try to reach out to anyone who is an active heroin user or their family member or a friend or a supporter, and reach out to them to do one thing first and foremost, which is get an accurate count as much as possible of how many of them are out there. And so then the question is, well, Sylvester, why are you even going to bother counting the number of active heroin users out there? What's the whole goal? Well, the whole goal is, as in the title of this thing I came up with, it's to form not so much a union in the sense of, it's really a term of art. I'm not saying form a union as in a labor union, but borrow from that idea, and that is to get a collection of people who have a shared experience. In other words, that they are heroin users. And so we want to find out how many of them are there out there across Connecticut. And number 2, to ask them, what will it take to help you as an individual? You know, if they say, well, I'd like to be in treatment, fine. We'll put you in one group. If somebody says, I'm happy where I am, but I just need the heroin I need to get through my day, then we will address that concern in another group. And then somebody else says, well, you know, I really would be able to kick the habit altogether in as quickly as possible, then that will be another group. But the key is to allow the heroin users and the heroin using population to have a voice in the discussions that we're having. Because as I mentioned to you, that meeting, for example, that Congressman Esty was so wise and kind enough to hold in the town of Torrington or across her district. I mean, these are all wonderful initiatives, but if all you have attending these meetings are basically the same group from the law enforcement community, the same group from the treatment community, and really not having heard or not inviting the voice of the heroin using population, then I think you're really missing a huge component of what you need to be able to address it properly and to be able to address it in a common sense and financially responsible way. Because you're saying, well, bring more cops or bring more DEA. Where are you going to get the money for more DEA or more police officers? And in fact, I'm saying you really don't need police officers in this issue. Attorney General Eric Holder himself has recently made an announcement that this was a very urgent healthcare crisis. Now, this is a guy who's in charge of all the law enforcement agencies in this nation. Why is he speaking on this issue? Because who does he have to send? He doesn't have doctors to send. He doesn't have social workers. He doesn't have pharmacologists or people who would be sensitive to hearing from the heroin using population. He has forces that will go catch them and lock them up. I'm saying to myself, it's more money to go catch them. Yeah. It's even more money to go warehouse them somewhere, plus all the court costs in between that you have to do to give them due process and take them through the judicial system. I'm saying no, what we should do really is basically approach it a different way. So I say my formula is this. I want to offer them tea. Not hot tea or iced tea, but TEA. T for tolerance, E for empathy, and A for acceptance. And I think that's generally the same sort of approach that we would do with any issue that may be controversial. I mentioned earlier about homosexuality or gays in the military. And really, when you look at it, it took 17 years for us as a nation or our military services. You had the commandant of the Marine Corps. He was all over TV saying, "Oh, you allow gays to be amongst my Marines. It's gonna destroy unit cohesion." Well, nothing could have been further from the truth. With all due respect to the general, I mean, I think he himself learned, and I think I read somewhere in the newspaper that he and his wife attended a Marine Corps ball where two lesbian Marines were the first to dance on the dance. Nobody made a big deal out of it. They just said, hey, these two are Marines, and they happen to be in love with each other. So why not support them as individuals and as a family unit? Because they will make them better Marines, rather than ostracize them or even kick them out of the Marines. I mean, what if these two had special skills that the Marines needed, whether it be as an electronic technician, whether it's a linguist, or that they could shoot straight? I mean, you hire me as a Marine, you'd be very sorry because I can't shoot straight. But anyway, so back to the whole issue of what is needed. As I said, I don't think we need more police. I don't think we need more funding to bring more law enforcement to the problem or to the issue. I really think we need those three things: tolerance, empathy, sort of the Bill Clinton, I feel your pain approach, and acceptance. To say, my brother's a heroin addict. Instead of rejecting him or running away from him, or saying, Joe, don't come to my house anymore because I know you're going to steal stuff and you're going to sell, my lawnmower and this and that and the other. I want nothing to do with you. Turn that around and say, you're my brother, you're a heroin addict, but we're gonna wrap our arms around you and, well, bring you to Sylvester because Sylvester's starting the Connecticut Heroin Users Union. I think really that's what I'm offering. The Connecticut Heroin Users Union is going to try to do is get these individuals to come out of their secret lives and feel as if somebody, at least one guy for now, Sylvester Salcedo, will listen to them and say, listen, if there are 5 of you, we probably don't have much chance or much of a voice if I go up to Hartford. But if there are 5,000 of you who sign up, I could run up to Hartford and say, Governor or Senator, Majority Leader, there are 5,000 people out there who have parents, who have relatives, and they could sway an election. They could move, but without a voice, you're hiding in the woodwork and nobody knows you. You're invisible and you're marginalized, and you're just out there all alone, lonely, afraid, scared, and addicted to heroin, unfortunately. But yes, in terms of methadone, I look at it this way. If it works for the individual, why not? But if somebody says, no, I'd really rather not go down methadone because, I don't know, it gives me a stomach ache or a headache, whatever it is, then we should allow that person an alternative path, whether it's actual heroin, clean heroin, pharmaceutical grade heroin, the same way you get Tylenol or any kind of medication.
And administered by a medical professional.
Under the, well, the way they do it in Europe is they allow the individual to inject themselves or allow the individual to ingest themselves. So it's not as if, you know, people envision this, that it's the doctor or the school nurse actually injecting something. No, you have to do it yourself because, again, as a lawyer, you know, all these liabilities. So, well, one of the quick ways to alleviate the liability thing is, I think of it this way. My wife and I, when we were dating years ago, we went to Colorado somewhere, and it was the middle of summer, so there were no skiing, but they had these little carts where you could slide down the mountain. And I remembered before you could get up the ski tow line, they made you sign a hold harmless. In other words, if I fell off that thing because I was going too fast, I would not sue the ski operator or whatever it is. And that's the same thing you would do with this members of the Connecticut Heroin Users Union. Everyone will sign a waiver that says, you know, if I ingest too much heroin under the safe injection room, I will not sue anybody. I won't sue the state of Connecticut. I won't sue the governor. I won't sue Sylvester. I won't sue anyone. I take responsibility for my own health and well-being. And that's the way we should really bring it. We should really bring it back to holding people to be accountable for their own actions. But we want to make it as safe as we can.